Hello everybody and welcome to the Colorado Karting Tour Winter Series Round 4 here at Road Atlanta, and it's an endurance round this week. We've got something new for you after we had something new for you last time out at Charlotte Oval. In the booth with me, back from his hiatus at Charlotte, Alex Skinner will be joining me on the commentary, and Marco Barbanera, as always, is doing the production for us here tonight. So, Alex, obviously you weren't here with us the last time out at Charlotte, but certainly you're up to speed on the championship. And what are you expecting to see here tonight at Road Atlanta?
I mean, again, we're back. We're here at Road Atlanta, one of the more prestigious circuits on the calendar that we have here in the Colorado Karting Tour. Only round 4 of the championship, of course, but of course a circuit that is known for being a very difficult circuit to get right, even in cars such as the USF 2000. As you know, we obviously we came here after, as you said, we came here after Charlotte, and obviously I was away from Charlotte, but from what I heard, it was a entertaining race nonetheless. So glad that the oval race that scared me away has kept everyone on their toes. But I'm expecting a lot of slipstreaming down towards turn 10A. I'm expecting a lot of moves potentially in towards turn 1 and even turn 3 if people are brave enough. But hopefully, and I say hopefully with very bated breath because no one in the endurance community listens to it, nobody makes any stupid moves in through the S's.
Absolutely, and it does feel a little bit silly to be calling this an endurance race, though certainly relative to the rest of the series it is. But I know all 3 of us in the booth here today participated in iRacing's Daytona 24 hours earlier this weekend. I know a number of the drivers in here today did as well, but this is a little bit different. It's not going to be 24 hours of racing. Thank goodness, that would be a long night of broadcasting for me. But it's 45 minutes of racing for these drivers. They're going to have a 10-minute qualifying session coming up in just a little bit after practice is over and done with. And after that qualifying session, these drivers will have a full 45 minutes in these cars compared to the shorter races that we've seen in other rounds, the 2 races with the first heat race setting the field for the feature. Just one long race. There is, I am told, going to be a pit stop. These cars are limited on fuel, and you would have to, quote, be crazy to make it on without stopping for fuel. But not expecting these drivers to take tires on that pit stop, just going to pull in, put a little bit of fuel in to make it to the finish. Just looking at the practice times at the moment, and it's a new name at the top, Daniel Fellows, one of a couple of new drivers here to the series this weekend. We've had a pretty solid turnout here tonight, and pretty much every round of this series has been bigger than the one before it, and with new faces every time out, which is really great to see, Alex.
Yeah, it was really great to see, and again, a load of new names that I'm not aware of, obviously, from the last time I was here. So great to see some new names here, and great to see some new names taking up the mantle against the likes of Jim McKendry and Kenny Schmid. And of course, Tyler, we see these new names come in, we see these new names up the front, but, you know, that could all, you know, just be, well, you know, all the talk and not the walk. So we've got to wait until the race session before we can see. But as you said earlier about the pit stop, the singular pit stop that we will have in this race, it'll be interesting to see how people play it, because, again, you could underfill the car early, go, you know, maybe come in early and then fill it to the end, you know, maybe try and pull away early. Or you could maybe, you know, fill the car up or even go 50-50. It'll be extremely interesting to see how people play it. So, you know, as we make our way into qualifying, it's going to be interesting to see where people sort of position them, to try and position themselves on the grid, because, again, here at Road Atlanta, lap 1, keeping out of trouble can really, really save your race.
The strategy is going to be quite interesting for sure. I get the sense we're going to see quite a bit of kind of follow the leader. As you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of drafting down through turn 10, and I expect kind of these cars to stick together and not try and shake from the mold too much. You know, a lot of these drivers will just be seeing what the quick guys do, and as there is somebody going off there. I didn't catch who that was, but
that'll be Presley.
Yes, it was Cadence Presley, who went for a little bit of a wiggle there.
Such an easy corner to get wrong as well. You get slightly too wide. You know, you're allowed to use all the curb on the exit up the hill, and you get slightly too wide. It bounces the car up, especially in, you know, Formula cars where it's such a stiff setup. You will find yourself in that outside barrier very, very quickly compared to, say, running in a GT car.
Certainly will. Yeah. So at the moment, I saw Rob Hubrex was one of the first drivers out to start on a lap. He is your undefeated road course champion in this series as it stands at the moment. We've had 2 rounds at the road courses, and Rob Hubrex has won all 4 of those races. So certainly one to watch here tonight. He wasn't towards the front as we would normally expect in practice. He was, I think, in 5th, about a half second off the practice leader. But if anyone's going to be able to put in some quick times around the twisty sections of this track, it's going to be Rob Hubrex. Obviously, last time out at Charlotte, we didn't see Rob on the top step of the podium in either the heat race or the feature. Instead, that was Kenny Schmid and Brian Bruzzi, both of whom were also near the top of the practice session here today. So, as we said, some new faces in the series and some new faces towards the front of the series. Rob still has a somewhat comfortable margin in the championship standings, but you know, Kenny Schmid, Brian Bruzzi, some of those guys who have shown the ability to win in these cars are going to be chomping at the bit to see if they can join him up at the front of this field. So we are currently seeing the sector times start to roll in. I see a purple sector from Rob. I see a purple sector from Daniel Fellows. Cadence Presley also has a purple sector in at the moment. So we will see where everybody shakes out here. It is solo qualifying, so everybody's got 2 laps to set their times. So we will start to see them all come in at right about the same moment. Rob is the first driver across the line, a 121.8. Presley and Fellows both come in narrowly behind him, within about a 1/10 of a second there. The 2 other drivers. There is Jim McKendry, I believe, across the line, or was that Kenny Schmid? It was Jim McKendry. He's about a half second off of the current pole time, as is, oh no, sorry, Schneebel is a couple of seconds back, so he's going to need to find some time on his second lap. As the times continue to roll in, still a number of drivers who haven't set their laps, and also important to remember, lap times get invalidated should you have an off-track moment here, which can certainly catch some of these drivers out, and over the course of 2 laps, you're going to want to be careful to make sure you get a lap time in.
Yeah, it's very easy to get an off track here at Road Atlanta. You may get slightly too wide, as I said earlier. You're either on the grass or you're getting an off track thanks to iRacing. But of course, a lot of the drivers posting their first, you know, their benchmark laps before they run onto the second of their laps in the entire field, spread by about 4.5 seconds at the moment on that first lap, which is great to see. And again, the top 6 separated by 7/10 of a second. This is going to be very, very close, especially in 1 lap pace, and it will be really interesting to see what these guys can do. And as you look at McKendry taking so much curb through turns 10A and 10B, that is how close these guys are pushing it to those track limits. Any tighter, and there would be track limits involved, but no improvement for McKendry. Going to be about 2 seconds off. We're going to see if anyone else is improving, because I believe that Jeremy Davis is improving. He's actually going to jump to 7th with a 22.8. Floyd Kerr is going to go up to 8th. Currently having looked at the 15, which is Vaughn Webber. He's going to try and improve on their lap in that number 15. So they can do across the line. It'll be P9. Oh, no, it'll be P6, sorry, with a 22.5. And Kenny Schmid, 5th. No improvement there.
Nope, he's jumped up to 4th.
Oh, no,
yeah, times are coming through a little bit.
A bit delayed,
just a tiny bit delayed. But yes, Kenny Schmid improves to 4th place, about 3/10 off. That is, who are we watching now? Max Dinda, who is just doing his laps now as we see Floyd Kerr off track and doing some donuts.
As I say, Brudstein jumped up to 5th as well, 4/10 off the pole time. So great second lap by them, actually. They were one of the, the slower cars on that first lap, so really got their act together in that second lap, really got the lap together.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see improvement from anybody back down the field. I saw David Weeks off after he had already set a time.
I see Dinder's on an improvement at the moment. The first sector looked
yes,
good
it actually
from
hasn't
there.
set a time yet. That's
Nah,
what
that might be
threw
why.
me there. But yes, he is on his second lap. He must have had his first lap invalidated. But here he is coming onto the back straightaway, which isn't particularly straight, but
One of the least straightaways I've ever witnessed in motorsport.
certainly yes. Yes, but Dinda is on the throttle as he comes through turn 9 and heads into the chicane at turns 10A and 10B. A bit of a wide line there. He's not really setting himself up particularly well for the braking zone here, but I've not really driven these cars around here in a little bit, so I don't know if that's just the line they're running. He comes through, ooh, just a little wiggle of the back end there as he comes through 10B and down the hill to finish his lap. He's certainly going to be off the pace a little bit, but I think just wanted to get a time in. He goes to 14th place with a 25.6. Weeks, as we mentioned, didn't get a second lap in, so he will sit in 15th. And it looks like Daniel Lopez is not going to set a time. He has not been out on track yet. Which means, I believe, we are going to have just a little bit of a wait before we can officially give you the rundown of the starting order. So I am going to go ahead and read a couple of messages from our friends at Colorado Karting Tour. The Colorado Karting Tour iRacing League Board would like to thank you for watching this broadcast. We hope everyone is enjoying this great season of racing. The series is currently free to race for Colorado Karting Tour members in order to keep the race entry free while providing the fantastic hosted sessions, awards, and broadcasts. We are looking for sponsors. If you would like to sponsor the Colorado Karting Tour iRacing League, please reach out at www.coloradokartingtour.com/contact for full details. In addition, the Colorado Karting Tour is looking for race day track workers. Positions currently open are corner, timing and scoring, as well as flag workers. Workers will be paid for their time and travel to each event. Please contact Colorado Karting Tour for more details. Contact information, once again, is at coloradokartingtour.com/contact. We are watching what we presume will be the pole lap unless Daniel Lopez suddenly starts putting in lap times. This is Rob Hubrecht's out on track.
Just interesting to see. It's amazing how they don't even get towards the top end of the rev limiter here, even with such a long straight in these cars. You can just see how much Kirby actually takes through 10A and on the exit of 10B, and then over the crest, keeping it as far left as possible to keep the throttle pinned through the final corner and trying not to unsettle the car over that crest towards the final corner. It's such a difficult thing to do, even in a car like this. It's that balancing act between getting the car rotated over enough to keep the throttle pinned and just making sure the car stays stable. Of course, 71 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures today. So a very hot day here in Road Atlanta, and one that we expect will be pretty extensive on the tires as well. But as Tyler said earlier, not expecting a tire stop here, not expecting fuel, but of course, tire management will still be relatively critical around here.
Yeah, I did hear Kenny Schmid in the driver chat earlier kind of talking to the drivers in the series about what they're going to have to do for tire management. These guys definitely have put in the time practicing for these races, so they know what it's going to take as far as you said, tire management. Jeremy, the race organizer, was saying he doesn't think it's going to be worth it no matter what, unless you really do a number on the tires. But expect to see drivers kind of start to fade towards the end of this race if they haven't properly managed their tire wear, which is kind of a factor we haven't really seen in this series so far, which is why it's really great that we have this variety of kind of race options at our disposal here from the series organizers. It makes for some really interesting different ways to race these cars. So here is your starting lineup for the one race this week at Road Atlanta. Rob Hubrecht's your pole man with a 121.83. He will be joined on the front row by Cadence Presley. behind them is Daniel Fellows, newcomer to the league. He lines up next to Kenny Schmid. Brian Bruzzi, your feature race winner last time out at Charlotte Oval, will start in 5th ahead of Jim McKendry. Vaughn Weber starts in 7th next to Jeremy Davis. Floyd Kerr, who had some solid runs as well last week, he starts in 9th next to Roman Bykov. John Schneebel will start 11th alongside Leo Kosman, another newcomer to the league. Dustin Wayman lines up 13th next to Max Dinda. David Weeks will start 15th, and Daniel Lopez, who, as we mentioned, did not set a qualifying time, he will start in 16th. So I believe we are going to have a full pace lap here, which is going to take these drivers a little bit.
Yeah,
certainly.
Sorry, carry on.
Oh, I was just going to say, certainly they'll have to mine their fuel here. If anyone is going to try and stretch this, and even if they're not, just to kind of limit how much fuel you have to take on at the pit stop. The drivers who are thinking about it will be certainly mindful of, what they need to save through here to keep their pit stop as short as possible. We mentioned before, we'd all been running the iRacing Daytona 24 hours. Want to give a shout out. Jeremy sent us the information of some of the drivers in this series who participated. Kenny Schmid, Rob Hubrechts were on a team together. They line up as somewhat championship rivals here today, but they were on a team, Action Sim Sport, that finished 7th in class, so well done to those guys. They ran the LMP2. And Jeremy ran with several other guys in the European Endurance Series race and finished 11th. So well done to those guys as well, Team Apex Predators. They were running the Ferrari and GTE, and he says they're going to be running the Bathurst 12-hour as well, which I am certainly looking forward to. As we discussed before the broadcast, Alex, I gather you are not as excited about Bathurst.
It's not. I'm excited about it. I'm just not someone that's going to drive it. I'd rather, spend the time practicing for the Sebring 12 hours in, a couple months' time.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally can't get enough of Bathurst, but it's a daunting task driving 12 hours around there. And it's good to see these guys, getting involved further in the iRacing service. I know a lot of them were already on iRacing before this series started, but we do know that some of them are kind of newcomers to iRacing, coming from the world of real racing. So it's cool to see these guys kind of ingraining themselves in the sim racing environment. Obviously Daytona was massively popular, which caused some issues. But it's clear that I think the sim racing world is on an upwards trajectory, and it's great to see everybody getting involved as the pace car heads through turn 10B and will duck into the pits. And who else on a road course but Rob Hubrechts will lead them to green, and he has already taken off. Cadence Presley ducking in the line in front of Fellows, who is still alongside Kenny Schmid. Kenny trying to go around the outside into turn 1. That's going to be tough to make work, but not impossible in these cars. As Kenny runs just a bit wide there, and actually he's going to potentially lose out here to Brian Bruzzi. They get themselves sorted down through the S's. Bruzzi drops in behind Kenny Schmid. I see Kosman has had trouble. Looks like he just spun it at the top of the S's. Didn't see any major damage to that car, so hopefully he's all right to continue on. We are on board now with Daniel Fellows, newcomer to the series. Having a look at Cadence Presley. Cadence moves to the inside to defend there. These guys aren't going to want to let Rob Hubrechts get away, though. Oh, as Cadence goes for a spin. So Cadence is going to drop down the order rapidly here. Ooh, careful. Yeah, it's a tough place to be parked because you want to try and get going so you don't get in anyone's way on corner exit, but you don't want to run into anybody, obviously. Here they are, headed down the back straight through turn 9. Kenny Schmid around the outside, but sets himself up for the inside into turn number 10. Kenny's going to want to get a move on here because they have already dropped out of towing range of Rob Hubrechts, some 2.1 seconds back from the race leader. Side by side further down the field, that is Vaughn Weber and Jeremy Davis. Davis going through there, and behind them is Floyd Kerr trying to hold off Roman Bykov.
Indeed, as we make our way on to lap 2, a minute and 40 completed of this motor race, and the gaps relatively stable at the moment, but of course those gaps will fluctuate up and down. Meanwhile, a bit further up the front from this fight, I can see Davis and Webber side by side, and Webber's actually going to make the move stick on Davis through the S's. Beautiful set of moves, and I believe that is the one. That's Cadence Presley off again.
And Coastman. That was Coastman who we had on shot there. So both drivers were off. I don't know if they'd come together. Coastman is reset to the pit lane. I'm not showing Cadence as moving. No, he is rolling again. Oh!
Between Bykov and Kerr.
That was, yeah, Floyd Kerr going well wide. I'm not sure if he hit the wall there as I lost him behind the trees.
He got away with that because of contact, just wheel-to-wheel contact, just sort of bounced the car in the air slightly and dropped him sort of onto the grass. Thankfully avoided any contact with the wall.
Yeah, it's all shaking off quickly here. Kenny Schmid, though, looking quite rapid as he started to close in on Rob Hubrex. Here's what happened to Cadence Presley, and I believe Leo Kosman as well. So at the top of the hill, Cadence trying to make his way back through the field.
Ooh.
And just some wheel-to-wheel contact. And that is going to cost those two drivers quite a bit of time here today. This is Max Dinda around. And he has come together. Is that Cadence Presley again?
No,
no,
David
Weeks.
We've got a replay up of what happened there. This is Dustin Wayman.
Something's happened to Dustin as well. This looks to be by himself, nobody nearby.
Oh no!
So that was Max Dinda trying to get back going and just pulled right in front of Dustin Wayman.
Rookie error, but of course it happens in motor racing. These guys getting themselves back used to Formula cars now, and probably getting themselves back used to this sort of circuit after such a long break.
We have seen Max Dinda, Leo Kosman, and Dustin Wayman all reset to the pit lane. These drivers do have a faster pair at their disposal today, so those drivers will certainly be taking advantage of that, but they're going to lose significant amount of time with the tow back to the pit lane. Max might have actually made it back to the pit lane because he's already out and away. Looks like David Weeks and Cadence Presley are still out on track. They have not pit despite their involvement in those incidents. Here is the battle for second, which is actually closing quite quickly on the battle for first. So Rob Hubrex was able to open up a bit of a gap on lap number 1, but that is quickly coming down. And Kenny Schmid is bringing Daniel Fellows, Brian Bruzzi, and Jim McKendry right with him. This group of 4 is all kind of lapping at about the same pace, and they are reeling in Rob Hubrex.
And it's kind of ideal for the guys that are currently behind, behind Schmid right now. Mainly because, well, the two behind Schmid are fuel saving at this moment. They can quite happily sit there, just sit in the tow, know that they're going to gain time, and Kenny's basically going to be doing all of the work. And it's just going to allow them to maybe extend that stint slightly longer. Of course, any fuel that you can save is less time in the pits when you do have to inevitably come in. So it will be nice and helpful for these guys. Although I think Fellows might not be interested in holding station. He's going to go to the right-hand side of Schmid, headed towards turns 10-8. But Schmid going to hit the brakes later, keep it on the inside. They're still side by side. Room is given. It's going to allow Bruzzi to maybe have a look as they come down over the crest into the final corner. Bruzzi to the inside of Schmid. Go overhead, and not far back is actually McKendry, so McKendry could have a look at these guys come to blows. It's going to be very close, almost contact, and is that Fellows going to lose a place maybe to Bruzzi? No, Bruzzi's going to have to back out for now, although McKendry might have a look on Schmid behind. Nope, going to have to sit in and hold back for now, but that is 2 places lost for Kenny Schmid in the space of 2 corners.
Yeah, I thought Kenny was trying to slot in behind Daniel Fellows as they headed into turn 10A, but maybe he saw that room wasn't being given by Brian Bruzzi and decided to stick with the inside line and try and make the pass back. Unfortunately, it's cost all these drivers about a second to Rob Hubrex, who is absolutely loving seeing them fight amongst themselves. But really, these guys need to be working together. I think if that was what Kenny Schmid was trying to do, he had the right idea. They can use that tow to their advantage and try and make up some time. Instead, they find themselves squabbling amongst themselves and losing time. Here, though, is a position swap that seemed to be done pretty handily. Bruzzi slots into second place as Schmid makes the dive for third, and he spun it.
It looked very late indeed. It looked very, very late indeed, and I was a bit curious. Meanwhile, in the background, Davis and Bykov almost coming together there.
Oh, and Davis is spun as well.
Oh, Davis.
So all of these drivers who know they have to be saving tires are abusing them early here. And yeah, I don't know what Kenny was doing there trying to make the move on Daniel. Maybe he thought they weren't really up to the pace that they needed to be to catch Rob Hubrechts, but it certainly was a bit of a kind of late move on the brakes, and it cost him because he spun and has now found himself in 6th place, some 10 seconds off of the race leader.
I wouldn't say it was late, maybe locked a brake or just locked the rears up slightly under braking. It is possible, it's quite easy to do in the USF 2000. But of course,
yeah, for sure. It just seemed like his decision to make the move was a bit late, as Jim McKendry is around on the straightaway.
And that's no front wing on that car.
No. How did that
Hopefully no suspension damage. There's Lopez behind. It's going to go by.
They're not too far out of turn 8, so he might have just lit up the rears or gone off track a bit. Yeah.
He was on his own when he did it. We'll see what happens. Down the gears.
Ooh, just understeered off the track.
No, he's on the grass. Oh.
Yeah.
So easy to do one wheel on the grass, and it just kicks the rear around.
And all this is exactly what Rob Hubrechts wants to see. I mean, Kenny Schmid and Jim McKendry have kind of been the two who have been there to challenge him on pace, and they've both taken themselves out of this one rather early on in the going here. Only 8 and a bit minutes into this 45-minute race. Still lots to go, certainly, and things could still happen to Rob Hubrechts for sure, but at the moment he is sitting pretty and looking to pad his championship lead.
Meanwhile, it looks like Bruzzi and Fellows are together again through turns 7 and 8 on the brakes. Bruzzi gonna hold that inside line. It might give Fellows a run on the exit though, as he will get the cutback. Be on the right hand side as they make their way down the back straightaway under the Mazda bridge and down the straight. It is a drag race right now as they head towards the kink. So equally matched. A beautiful run out of there from Bruzzi as well. He's probably going to have to slot into 10A, but I think he might have a look. He's going to have a look. Laid on the brakes. There's going to potentially be contact. They're leaving just enough room for each other. Oh, still so close over the crest and down into the final corner. I think that Fellows is going to have this done. He is. Beautiful move. But here comes Bruzzi back to the inside for turn 1. He's going to make that move late on the brakes. We'll just get that car turned in nice and pretty. And Fellows is going to have to look for another way through.
Yeah, I absolutely understand why these drivers are fighting so hard, because it's not fun being stuck behind someone that you think you're faster than, but it is costing them massive chunks of time every time they go side by side through a corner. And really what they need to do is, kind of sort themselves out, except that, even if they think they're faster, they're not going to be able to get away and try and close down on Rob Hubrechts rather than...
Oh! Contact with a back marker.
And both of them might have damage from that.
I'm not sure who that was. Was that Weeks, maybe?
I think it was Schneebel. It was Schneebel, yeah.
Oh, no. That's very unusual for that to happen, especially Schneebel, who's actually found himself in 13th at the moment because of everything that's gone on this race. Maybe just a misjudgment from Bruzzi, yeah.
Yeah, it's cost these two quite a bit of time. I don't see any visual damage on either of their cars, so they might have gotten away with it, but certainly both of them were very close to contact there.
Here we go,
Here is the replay from Bruzzi's on board.
Into 7. He probably expected Schneebel to stay right, and if Schneebel just comes across under braking, just ever so slightly, it's the slightest of movements, but it is just enough to clip the rear.
Oh, this is Von Weber going very wide.
Very wide on the exit of turn 1. That's actually ended up on the inside of turn 2 somehow. Meanwhile, lapping maneuver take 2. Although it will actually allow Fellows to the left-hand side because Britty got back through, but Fellows is going to be on the outside for 7. It's going to allow Britty to the inside. He's going to have to give that up. These two, I have a feeling, have just given up on U-brakes. I think they've gone, we're not as quick as U-brakes, even if we are going to follow each other. So let's just enjoy what we've got and fight for what we've got. And just let Rob get away with this. Hope he makes a mistake later on. But meanwhile, Fellows still in that slipstream, still in that tow. He's going to have to look to the inside if he wants to make a move work. But I have a feeling that Britty's going to be wise to it. So break just a tad later than he will. And he's not going to be able to make anything work there. He's actually going to get a worse run, his Fellows, because of the way he exited turn 10B. Meanwhile, Cadence Presley leaving pit road after a stop for him.
Yeah, that's his first stop. So he didn't come in earlier when he had that damage. Presumably he can make it to the end from here. I don't know what the fuel limit on these cars is, or for that matter, how much they can make on a tank of fuel, but I would have to believe we're in the window because I didn't see any significant damage that would have caused him, or different damage from what he would have had already that would have caused him to come into the pits. Here is Wayman and Coastman battling, and Leo has the inside line for turn number 1. Seems like he's just a little bit quicker than Dustin at the moment, and he slots into 13th place. So still battles going on all the way throughout this field, just a bit scattered around because of, as that is Dustin going just a bit sideways at the top of the S's and going for a spin. But this field is quite a bit scattered around because of the incidents we've seen, but there's still a number of battles that are together on track. Here is the resumption of the Brutsy Fellows battle for P2, with Kenny Schmid looming large in the background, trying to get back forward after his spin. He's actually been quicker than Rob Hubrecht's the last few laps. He's now close to within 9 seconds, when that gap was, I believe, at one point over 10 seconds, or almost 10 seconds after his spin. So he's definitely made up some time, and he's got time to make up more ground on Rob, but he's going to need to get by these two first, and I don't think that's going to be easily done.
No, not at all, especially with how hard these two are going at it. They're really able to find just a really solid rhythm with each other, though. Again, even though they have been fighting each other relatively hard, they've still not, dropped chunks of time. They've been dropping maybe, a couple of tenths a lap at worst, it feels like. But that fight for second will soon include Kenny Schmid. And of course, nothing unusual for Kenny Schmid to be involved in the three-way fight early on in the race. And, as they come down out of turn 7, sorry, turn 8, I should say, down the back straight, Fellows to the left-hand side. He's going to have the inside for 10. And it might actually even potentially allow Schmid onto the back of them, because he's looking at this going, oh god, they're side-by-side again.
Kenny is just out of tote range where he is right now, but yeah, he'll be licking his chops and hoping these two continue to fight each other, because that'll make getting through, or at least getting to them, much easier. And if he's able to get past them and they start resumed fighting behind him, he might be able to spring a bit of a gap, which is exactly what he needs. He should be in tow range now. He's been quicker than the two in front of him considerably over the last few laps. There you see it at the bottom of your screen. I mean, he's closing half a second to a second and a half a lap. That's going to bring that down rather quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, you see someone like Kenny Schmid behind you, you know that there's going to be, it's not an if, but when. And, well, Kenny Schmid getting ever closer. The gap now, obviously, 1.6 seconds between him and Fellows. And, of course, it's a longer race than normal. So, of course, at this sort of point, we'd be, well, I think we'd already have ended the sprint race by now, Tyler. So, of course, there's still a long way to go. And plenty of time for that 7-second gap to actually be made up. But, of course, Fellows is in that tow. He's about 2 tenths now. Will he have a look to the inside of 10? He's getting closer. Of course, he's going to defend to the inside. Might allow Fellows to have a little sniff around the outside. to actually slide out, so he's really not going to get a run even. It seems that Fellows is struggling maybe into turn 10 as Brutzi comes in. So this is going to be the scheduled stop for Brutzi. Now, this is kind of crucial because it looks to me that he's going to go for a half-hour tank of fuel. Maybe Fellows fueled up more, and maybe Schmid has fueled up more. So we'll see how long Brutzi's in the pit lane for and where he'll come out on track. Because if he comes out in traffic, that's really going to hinder him.
I like this move from Brutzi. I don't think this is him putting less fuel in at the start. I think this is just him thinking he's got to get out of this battle that's costing him time, because it's a very short stop there for Brian Brutzi. He is back underway now in 7th place, and I think, assuming he gets out ahead of Floyd Kerr and is able to hold that, he's going to have some clean air. And if he can set some quick lap times, that could be majorly beneficial. He, I think, just wants to get away from Daniel Fellows, who is hounding him for 2nd place. And I think, like I said, I really like this move. I think this is going to, even if it doesn't end up working out for Brian, I like trying something different, going for the undercut and seeing what you can do with strategy rather than just your pure pace on track.
Yeah, very, very true indeed. I still feel that maybe even with that short stop and maybe with that, just a little hop up, as you said. But currently looking at Fellows, who's going to stay out a bit longer, maybe start to put some laps down. Was actually a 10th quicker than Hubrecht's last lap, and actually 100th quicker than Kenny Schmid. So maybe it's actually been a bit of a hindrance for Brutzi to come in early.
Well,
allowing Fellows and Schmid just to maybe close that gap up to Hubrecht's.
It wouldn't surprise me if Fellows was being held up by Brutzi as much as he was holding up Brutzi. It's kind of the catch-22 where you get out of that battle and you go faster. Oh, is that Max Dinda going off track in turn 9? But the catch-22 is you get out of the battle and you're able to go faster, but because you got out of the battle, the guy you were battling is also able to go faster. So you just have to hope that he was holding you up more than you were holding him up. And I get the sense that what was actually the case, as I said, was they were holding each other up pretty much equally. I'll be very interested to watch the lap times of Brian Brutzi once they start coming in. Obviously, the last lap was a pit stop. But if he can start putting in some quick laps, we'll, I think, see it pay dividends later on in this race.
Indeed, and they will still stay out. So I'm assuming these guys will probably go maybe to the 20-25 minute mark before they come in. That's the feeling I have with the fuel tank on with the majority of these guys anyway.
I wouldn't be shocked if we see them go to the end of the tank as far as they can go, which I think will take them till about 15 minutes left in this race, maybe even less. You know, it's a really short fuel stop that we're seeing for these drivers, so clearly they're not close enough to save fuel and make it to the end, but close enough that the pit window is pretty gigantic. And I think, you know, the optimal, in theory, the optimal strategy is always to go as long as you can, because then you minimize the amount of fuel in the car and you run with the lightest weight possible at all times. So I would guess that that's what these guys are going to do, but obviously, as I said, I've not driven this car particularly recently for any length of time, and pit stops are not something that normally happen in this car anyway. Oh, that's Leo Kausman going for another spin, and David Weeks off as well, so not sure if those two were related, but both of those drivers have already had some trouble here today and having a little bit more. So here's Kausman through turn 1. It's not running wide. He holds a nice tight line there up into turn 2. Oh, and the car just broke away. It looked similar to what we saw happen to, I want to say it was Dustin Wayman, where the car just kind of floated around at the top of the hill as the rear tires get light. And here's what happened to Weeks. He's going awfully slow through there.
Oh, he gets hit from behind.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
I heard the contact from behind.
Yeah, it was Cadence Presley who was in behind him. It was almost...
Cadence probably didn't expect him to be going that... Yeah, he didn't expect him to be going that slowly at that point. So just a misjudgment, really, from Cadence Presley. And Yeah, sorry, just a bit of miscommunication even.
Well, yeah, I'm not really sure.
Oh!
Ooh,
And that's Dinder and Wayman
yeah.
together. That's a big crash for Dinder.
Yeah, and that almost looked like netcode because Wayman continued on as if nothing was happening to his car. But unfortunately, Dindo was absolutely destroyed. Ooh, as Presley is off again.
And that's contact with
Dustin
Wayman.
Wayman. So Wayman's had all sorts of trouble this lap.
Let's see what happened to Wayman here. Into the braking zone. Turn 10A. Turns in. Rear goes round. Here comes Cadence Presley.
Unfortunately,
And he doesn't hold the brakes, forcing Cadence to go off.
Yeah, Cadence has been caught up in 2 incidents, 2 laps in a row, not of his doing, through 10A and 10B. It's unfortunate he was already set back in this race from his contact earlier on, and that's just really been a rough go of it for him these last couple of laps. Nothing he's done wrong, I have to say. Obviously, you know, in hindsight, he could have seen that David Weeks was trying to let him through, but it's tough to, especially depending on what screen setup Cadence is running, to see him kind of around the corner letting off to let you by and not taking the racing line. So tough luck for Cadence Presley, but he's still going out there, a lap down at the moment. Here is the battle for 5th place between Daniel Lopez and Roman Bykov. Lopez holds the position at the moment, up 11 spots, having not qualified. As Bykov just has a little wiggle there through turn number 7, and he is unfortunately because of that probably not going to be able to catch Lopez this lap, as our leader is in. So Rob Hubrex has decided it's time to make a pit stop. Looks like he's going for the split the race in half strategy pretty much.
I'm becoming to sound pretty smart at the moment, it seems.
Yeah, it's certainly
interesting to see Hubrex come in this early as well, though. Like, as much as I did say, I'm expecting them in around 25-ish minutes. Interesting to see Hubrex of all people in, and Lopez and Bykov coming together. Hopefully, no accident on pit road.
It's the safe strategy, isn't it? Because yes, it's not the optimal strategy. Ideally, you want to be running a little bit longer, so your car is a little bit lighter. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make that much of a difference in these cars. And what's safest is to just kind of split it in half, because you know how much fuel you used in the first half. You know how much fuel you're going to use in the second half. You can kind of fill it up based on that. And
Lopez has really jumped Bykov as well, actually.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Bykov missed his pit stall and had to reverse back into it. I saw him kind of rolling there. He looked like he was having some trouble, but and pitting this early also covers off. I know we don't have the safety car in this league, but it covers off, if the field were to get bunched up for some reason, as Kosman is off again at the top of the S.
Oh, doesn't hold the brakes and just rolls right in front of Jeremy Davis.
And Bykov had
to roll in front of.
No, and Bykov took the motorcycle lane there.
It's perfectly fine. He's just testing.
Oh, this is Fellows. This is Daniel Fellows.
What has happened to Fellows? Because that is big damage to the race leader. It wouldn't surprise me. He's lucky he's got a fast repair that will basically fix that car instantly.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here.
It's an easy thing to do, hitting the pit wall here, especially if you misjudge it on the, coming down to hit the limiter. Come down the hill. I bet you he's lost it under braking. Yep, exactly. Lost it under braking. And then Kenny Schmid in behind.
Following him in.
He's lucky that he has that fast repair, because that will save his bacon in regards to that. Rob Hubrex takes the lead. Brutzi second.
Yeah, long stop for both of these guys. You're absolutely right, Marco. They are dropping well down the order behind people who have already made their pit stop. I don't know what is going on with these two.
Yeah, it's Brutzi now only
taking
also.
Tires?
Maybe, but also Brutzi 3 seconds back from Hubrex now.
The only thing I can think is that those two both took tires, because otherwise I see absolutely no reason for their pit stops to have been that long.
Nope.
They both have fast repairs that they hadn't used. We know, and I don't think Kenny Schmid had much in the way of damage. So, yeah, the only thing I can really think of is they were taking tires on this stop.
We'll see if they go up on the jacks. Usually, good sign on iRacing if they're taking tires as they go up on the jacks. And he's up on the jacks.
Indeed, they do. Interesting. It's an interesting call from those two. We'll see if it pays off. I guess it's kind of in the mindset of doing something different.
I mean, that puts them 42 seconds back. So they've got to make up 42 seconds in less than 20 minutes.
Yeah, I just struggle to believe that tires are that important, but we'll find out, won't we? I mean, certainly it won't take much for them to get back up to where they were, or at least just a bit off where they were. I mean,
what's the guarantee? What's the bet that they forgot to turn tire change off?
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible, and it's very easily done.
Certainly, if we get the chance to talk to Kenny afterwards, he's generally been an open book in interviews, so I'd love to ask him if this was planned or not. But yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out for these two as the race continues on. Currently in 7th is Fellows. Schmid working on Jeremy Davis for 8th as they head down through the S's. And yeah, as we said, so they're about 43 seconds, 41 seconds for Fellows off of the race leader. That's just not enough, unless Hubrex gets a flat tire, because tire wear is that extreme, which I just don't think it is. These guys are not going to be able to make that time back up.
Like, yes, this is a relatively high tire wear circuit, but not that tire wear heavy. Schmid looks to the right-hand side of Jeremy Davis, down the straight.
Yeah, just
Davis
looking
actually
at
in a really, really good place right now, actually. Currently 8th, obviously will drop to 9th if Schmid gets by. But having made his stop, he's looking at a good top 10 finish, and again, a very solid result for Davis.
Yeah, it's been a nice run here for Jeremy, who's had kind of some horrible luck, I feel like, throughout the season. Jeremy, for those who don't know, helps to organize this league. He does the drivers' meetings and setting everything up with us on the broadcast. So we're
Fellows fastest lap, by the way, 21.9.
Indeed, it is. So clearly, they did take tires, and it does something. But is that going to be enough? I mean, you look at Hubrex's last lap, 22.7, and the answer is no. That's not going to be enough.
It's 8/10. Yeah, 8/10 in a lap is definitely not enough.
No, not with 15 minutes of this race remaining and everybody having made their pit stop. So that means all of the cars between them they're going to have to get by. So I would say I would expect a 5th place for Fellows. I think Lopez is within reach. I don't know about Jim McKendry in 4th, and I don't think anything beyond that is easily within reach, just looking at the lap times people are doing.
Well, something that is in reach is Kurt for Fellows, goes to the right-hand side of the 68, and it gets the move solid, unless Kurt has a look under braking. No, Kurt's going to back out of it and allow Fellows through, and that's a big moment. Going to get the car saved, to get the car stopped. Beautiful car control for Fellows, and that is what you love to see.
Yes, he was really leaning on those fresh tires, and I think he was hoping they were going to be a bit grippier than they were there, as he sent it in to make sure he was clear of Floyd Kerr and just missed his braking zone a little bit. He managed to hold on to it, as you mentioned, but that was not ideal by any means for Daniel Fellows.
Let's have a look. Hits the brakes slightly late. Car goes in, it just goes on the rear. As you said, just
that's just carrying
too much speed on.
Plain and simple. Yep. So,
but
all sorted now as Roman Bykov is spun on.
That's spun at the exit of turn 1.
That's turn 1. So I think he probably dipped a tire running wide and spun back across the track, if I had to guess. But
avoided the wall at least.
Yes, it seemed that way. Here is.
And there's a spin for Davis in the background.
Yes, right you are. He gets it sorted. But yes, turn 7 claims another victim there in Jeremy Davis, although he seems to be back going without any damage. Here is the gap from Hubrex back to Bruzzi, and it's not good news for the Brian Bruzzi fans watching at home.
I just saw
Did you
Brutzi
see
come
something
together
I
with a
didn't?
back marker in the back. Yeah, I saw Brutzi come together with a back marker in the background. I believe that
Okay.
might have been Dustin Wayman.
Wayman
Was
has
that the
reset
Wayman?
to the pit lane.
Yeah, that's the more logical
We're gonna get a
scenario. It's
replay
coming through the
here.
S's. Yeah, it is Way. It is. No, it's
No, it's
David
David
Weeks.
Weeks. He's going
You see
awfully
David
slow
Weeks
there
through there, and
and
then
blinking.
bang.
Yeah, I don't know, because he was blinking, I don't know if Brutzi's going to have much damage from that, but certainly there was solid contact from Weeks' perspective. It looks like Brian Brutzi has kind of maintained pretty much the same gap that it has been for the last few laps. He's about 3.7 seconds back, so doesn't seem to have cost him all that much, but certainly a scary moment there for Brian Brutzi.
Yeah, definitely, indeed. And it'll be interesting to see if he can, really recover from that. I say recover from it, but you know what I mean? Like, he has lost time from it. He's probably actually lost a bit of confidence, or maybe been a bit spooked by it. Meanwhile,
there's Kosman on Wayman for position. This is 12th place, changing hands into turn number 6. And it looks like Kosman's got the job done. So, a couple of spins, but he's still hanging on and still fighting for positions as he moves himself up into 12th place.
I think Dustin's getting a bit fed up with seeing cars around him by now.
Yeah, it's been a rough race for both of these guys. They've been had a few incidents apiece, and they find themselves 2 laps down from the race leader. But good to see him still trucking along out there and completing laps and moving themselves forward.
Indeed. Meanwhile,
So
gap down to 3.5. Yeah,
it came down just a little bit there. I don't know if Hubrex is just kind of pacing himself and saving tires, but Brutzi's been able to close a fair
I think
amount.
Wayman's just disconnected. Because he has he has just apparently turned it out, and we were watching him. So it's a shame for Dustin Wayman. So I don't think he would have alt F4 just like that,
No, that looked like a network deal.
And through 10B.
No, it says he's manually disconnected. Oh, dear.
Oh.
Yeah. I guess he just had enough there. Yeah, it had been a bit of a rough day for Dustin, so I can't say I blame him for calling it quits at this point. But we check back in the lead, and it is coming down pretty quick now. Brian Brutzi was within 3 seconds. That gap was almost 4 seconds not that long ago.
We may have a lead fight on our hands, ladies and gentlemen, because, as you said, Tyler, it is coming down, and I think maybe Hubrex is not pushing as hard as he could do. Maybe he knows he's got a gap, he knows he's got time, and he's just relaxing, making sure he's not making mistakes, just minimizing any chance of an error right now in that car. And he's going, "Come on, Brutzi, you wanna close in, go for it." But I'll respond because he's now 3.3 ahead.
Yeah,
to open that gap back out.
It would indicate some smart tactics from Rob Hubrex, who has certainly demonstrated that through his dominant performances and the first couple of rounds of this championship. We know he races smart and he knows what to do from the race lead. So probably just managing the gap, as yes, when all was said and done, it was only about 1/10 of a second difference gain for Brutzi over that lap, which is perfectly reasonable for Rob Hubrex if he's going to hold on to win this race. He just needs to keep doing laps like that, and he should be all right. But at the moment, that gap just kind of hovering around 3 and a bit seconds.
Another fight that might be on our hands is the battle for 3rd place between Webber and McKendry. Obviously, McKendry on a recovery drive after the incident early on. He's actually only 1.9 off the back of Webber now, and you can see them in the same camera shot as they make their way up the hill. And McKendry's been quicker very, very consistently over the past few laps. So it'll be interesting to see if he can close up by the end of this race, which I have a feeling he will be able to. I just have a feeling he might even be able to pass him probably towards the very final lap even.
It's true. It's been a really impressive performance from Webber, though, just kind of keeping it clean when pretty much everybody else has been in multiple incidents. He's done a good job of just kind of keeping his nose under him and running a solid race. As Brutzi is off. Yeah, have to say I kind of saw that one coming. With Hubrex inviting him to push a little bit, I think a mistake was not inevitable, but you got the feeling he was pushing, and with the gap he had back to third place, it's not. Yeah.
The car wasn't even carrying much more speed than normal, any more speed than normal. It's just the rear has gone on him.
I mean, these cars don't have much downforce, so you rely heavily on mechanical grip, and if you carry just a little bit too much speed through these corners, you're certainly liable to have the back end step out on you. Not to mention, he's certainly been using his tires quite a bit harder than Rob Hubrex has been these last few laps, and likely it just came to bite him there in turn 10A, but he hangs on to second place just significantly further back as Cadence Presley, I believe we're going to see go wide. Ooh, no, he had some contact.
He gets wiped out, but Cadence Presley has just been involved in every incident on the sun, and none of them have been his fault at all.
Yeah, Kosman, I don't know what was going on there, if he was attempting to make the corner or not, but he just kind of sailed it in. Maybe he missed his braking point, but unfortunately Cadence Presley was the innocent bystander. This is Hubrex with Roman Baikov, a lap down in behind him. Baikov is actually the last of the runners at the moment in 10th place. Looking solid for a finish here. Obviously he's had some trouble, but the big gainer of the race, mentioned him earlier, Daniel Lopez, currently in 5th place. He started from the back after not setting a qualifying time. The big loser is the aforementioned Cadence Presley, who finds himself down 9 spots from his starting position, which I believe was 2nd. Yeah, that math checks out. So Cadence down from his 2nd place starting spot, and unfortunately he's not going to be moving forward as he is out of this race.
Look, Tyler, we told ourselves at Okayama we wouldn't do math.
I know. And believe me, my race math brain has been fried from doing all the calculations for the 24-hour, but still, I think 2 + 9 is doable for even the most fatigued brain.
You sure? I've struggled with easier.
Yeah, here is that battle for 3rd that we mentioned. Weber holding on to that position over Jim McKendry, and actually that is Brian Bruzzi for position for 2nd place up the road. He's not quite in tow range, but if Brian has kind of cooked his tires, we might see a 3-way fight for 2nd rather than a 2-way fight for 3rd, which is rather exciting. This is, Fellows on Lopez. I mentioned I thought this was probably as far forward as he could go, and it looks like that is what it's going to be as we're closing in on 5 minutes left of this race, but Jim McKendry's in the pits.
Yeah, McKendry did. Remember McKendry made that early stop, Tyler?
He did for damage repairs.
And it wouldn't have been enough for fuel. It was a very early stop, and it was within like the first 5 minutes of the race, or 5-10 minutes of the race. Not enough to get to the end on a tank of fuel. So it's going to move Fellows and Lopez up the order.
It will indeed, and that is good news for Kenny Schmid and Fellows, as you mentioned. The guys who took tires, who I think are seeing that strategy is not going to play out for them. But they do get a position there from Jim McKendry, and they move into 4th and 6th, respectively. There is Brian Bruzzi, who still is holding about a 2-second gap over Weber, but Weber is closing rather quickly here. Closed in a 1.5 seconds just over the last 2 laps. Just seems like Bruzzi is trying to get the tires back under him and presumably get his confidence back after that spin we saw in 10A.
Yeah, any spin like that, you're just going to want to cool those tires down. Make sure they're not, still scrubbing due to the heat. It's pretty easy to do, especially in, as you say, low downforce cars like this, where you really really rely on that grip. Although, something that is also a bit more relied on is that fight for 4th, because I'm looking at the times, and yeah, it's 1.2 seconds at the moment, but I have a feeling that Schmid, who's only not even half a second off the back of Lopez now, might be getting a bit closer, because it's only 2/10 now, and I have a feeling there might be a move being made potentially in towards turn 1.
Yeah, Schmid has been following Fellows through from about a 1.5 seconds back. Now it's about 2 seconds between the two of them. But since they made their pit stop and came out together, Fellows has kind of been leading Schmid through traffic, and it seems that it's that way again as Schmid is trying to get by Lopez. But I don't think he's going to have the pace to catch Fellows, barring a mistake, because this is pretty much the way it's been the whole time since those two left the pits. So I would imagine we see Kenny Schmid move up a spot and no further, barring incident in front of him. But he has 3 minutes left in this race to make the move happen on Daniel Lopez. And I think Kenny is going to probably wait to use the toe on the straightaway since Lopez has dropped away from Fellows. That would seem the sensible thing to do, and Kenny has a bit of breathing room over Jim McHenry, so he can afford to wait just a little bit to make that move happen.
Discretion, the better part of valor, of course. And the very smart driver is Kenny Schmid. Very cool-headed driver, as well as we've seen in the past. He will go to the left-hand side of Lopez. Well, Lopez has been in the top 5 pretty much all race, and it's just now slipped away with 2.5 minutes to go. And with 2.5 minutes to go, that gap is 17.1 seconds after that spin for Bruzzi. And of course, it is only 2.5 seconds back from Bruzzi to Webber. I do have a feeling that Webber may have backed off ever so slightly. And actually, McHenry might get back to 6th at this rate because he is closing up to the back of Lopez. Again, you can see him in the back of shot just there. With, I'd say, only about a lap to go, I think, at the line.
Yeah, I didn't catch where Hubrex was, and I'm not sure where on track Hubrex is at the moment.
I would say if these guys are coming up towards turn 8, Hubrex is probably towards turn 10
Yeah,
now.
it's going to be close.
I'd say it will definitely be 1 lap to go if he crosses the line. There he goes, he's crossed the line now, so it will be 1 to go. White flag.
He's got 2 more, I have to believe.
Oh, wait,
120. Doing minute 22
yeah,
laps,
122.
So.
Sorry, I don't know what.
Yeah.
My head is in Daytona mode, thinking of 140.
Ooh, that was a lot of curve there for Rob Hubrex, but we believe he's on the penultimate lap at the moment, so 2 more to go for Rob as Bruzzi and Webber come through. I'm wondering if Webber possibly didn't put enough fuel in, and he is just having to save a little bit now because he is dropping off quickly from Bruzzi, who he was kind of managing to stick with for a bit.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Last lap times weren't all that different, actually, now that I look at them, but that gap did certainly grow at some point, so maybe just a mistake somewhere for Webber. There is Jim McHenry, who is going to try and get Lopez. He was a second quicker that lap, and with 2 laps to do it, it looks like he might have a shot for sure. Lopez just trying to hang on for all he can. This is Floyd Kerr going for a slide in, I assume, turn 1.
Yep.
And he's got some buffer over Jeremy Davis, so he's taking his time getting back on track.
That's not turn 1, I apologize.
You are right, that was down through the S's. Oh,
no, we're being apologized.
So
it was turn 1. I was going to say, that seemed like the unmistakable gravel trap of turn 1.
Yeah,
on the grass
dipped
in
a
the
wheel
entry.
on entry. Yep. No contact with the wall, though, so Floyd continues on damage-free. It's closed the gap to Jeremy Davis quite a bit, but we'll have to see if that battle shapes up in the last couple laps here. Like
Final
this
lap
one
underway.
is for 6th. As you are right, Rob Hubrex has crossed the line to take the final lap. These drivers still working their way on the second to last lap down into turn 10A.
Hubrex just coming over the crest of the hill in sector 2 towards turn 7. Going to be breathing sighs of relief, and I think a very, very dominant victory once again. But can McHenry make the move into turn 1? He's got 1 lap to do it. It's going to be last chance saloon to the inside of turn 1. And McHenry will move back up into 6th place.
Yeah, a bold move there from Jim McHenry, though Lopez certainly helped him through. Didn't make things difficult on him. I think he'll be happy to take that 7th place finish after a strong performance there starting from the back. He's another one of those drivers who's managed to just have a clean race.
But through the final corner, it will be another dominant victory for Rob Hubrex. A great, great drive. A 22.8 to finish things off. 34 laps completed here today. in this endurance race here at
Ooh,
Road
is
Atlanta.
that Baikov off?
I
Yes,
believe
it
that's
is.
Baikov off
I
as
thought it was
Brutzi will come
for a
home to
second.
take second. What could have been for Brutzi, but hit back to the battle for 6 because McKendry is under pressure from Lopez towards
Lopez is
turn
not
10.
done.
He's going to be on the inside. He's going to have to break as late as he dares, otherwise Lopez will get through. McKendry will go through because Lopez locks up. It will be Weber third. A great start for him. Fellows fourth. Kenny Schmid will take fifth. A good recovery and a great recovery from McKendry, holding off Lopez for sixth. As Lopez will end up seventh. Kurt will come down and look to take eighth place. A great drive from him. Very clean drive apart from the couple of spins that we did see from Kurt. So good to see him get home in the top 10. And second last of the runners and last of the cars on the lead lap, Jeremy Davis.
Yeah, good on all these guys for finishing. Obviously a longer race than a lot of them are used to, though obviously not the ones who ran Daytona. But certainly for this league, these guys did a stellar job getting to the finish here. Your winner there, of course, is Rob Hubrex. Who else would it be out here on a road course at Road Atlanta? He grabs first place ahead of Brian Brutzi, following up his win last week with a second place, a solid effort. Vaughn Weber comes home in third, grabbing his first podium of the season, an excellent job. Daniel Fellows finishes in fourth ahead of Kenny Schmid. Jim McKendry comes home in sixth. Daniel Lopez finishes in seventh after his last gasp attempt to get by Jim again. Floyd Kerr comes home in eighth. Jeremy Davis in ninth, the last car on the lead lap. Roman Baikov finishes 10th, and from 11th on back were your non-finishers, Cadence Presley, Leo Kosman, Dustin Wayman, Max Dinda, David Weeks, and John Schneebel.
Now, what I wonder is, we already have someone waiting in the interview room, Tyler, because, well, it is that time of the day, and we are going to have some interesting interviews to conduct here today, because the two people I see are going to be people that I think definitely will have double-edged sword opinions on this race. I feel, how well things went and how well things could have gone. Yeah,
well, I'm just going to give it a minute so we can get some more guys into the interview room. But I'll take that time to let you know that the Colorado Karting Tour iRacing League Board would like to thank you for watching this broadcast. We hope everyone is enjoying the great season of racing. The series is currently free to race for CKT members. In order to keep the race entry free while providing the fantastic hosted sessions, awards, and broadcasts, we are looking for sponsors. If you would like to sponsor CKT iRacing League, please reach out at coloradokartingtour.com/contact. In addition, the Colorado Karting Tour is looking for race day track workers. Positions currently open are corner, timing and scoring, as well as flag workers. Workers will be paid for their time and travel to each event. Please contact CKT for more details. Again, that is coloradokartingtour.com/contact. And Alex, I am going to, if I can, grab our race winner, and who else would it be? Rob Hubrex, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm very tired this weekend. A big weekend in the sim rig. I've basically been glued into my racing simulator rig this entire weekend, but great way to cap it off.
Yeah, we briefly mentioned your Daytona exploits, and feel free to let us know how you did if you want. But yeah, it kind of seemed like everyone in there behind you was tripping over themselves trying to catch you, and you were pretty much home free for a lot of that race. Obviously, you had a bit of a threat from Brian towards the middle, though he fell off towards the end after his spin, and for most of it, you seemed to kind of be in cruise control.
Yeah, I think that at this track, clean track ahead of you was really a huge advantage. A lot of kind of high-speed corners, a lot of aero-dependent corners. Even though this car doesn't have a ton of downforce, it does have some, and you definitely do get aero wash if you're right behind someone. And also, I was just looking at the relative behind me. It looked like those guys were just fighting really hard. Brian honestly had a really good strategy call. He pitted early. Sounds like he was able to get out and get some clean track and not battle anyone for a good amount of time, get some good lap times in, and then suddenly he was 3 seconds behind me.
Yeah, it certainly. We saw the battling going on behind you was fierce, and I thought it was a bit strange that they didn't try and work together a little bit to close the gap on you. But yeah, we saw Brian's strategy play as well, and it was a solid effort. Was your plan from the get-go to kind of split it in half, or was that just on the fly, feeling like you needed to cover off Brian a little bit?
It was just kind of on the fly, honestly. I kind of figured since I had that clean track in front of me, you know, I'd only once in a while would I come up on lap cars, and they were pretty compliant in letting me by. So I was a little bit worried. I got out in back of a lap traffic car right after I pitted, and I thought, oh no, this might screw me over in the long run. But it didn't really seem to. I think the guys behind me were just battling so hard that they just couldn't. They didn't have the advantage of the clean air in front of them. So, yeah.
Yep, certainly quite the clean sailing aside from those lap cars. Obviously, you know, we'd be remiss to mention your dominance on the road courses this season with all road courses from here on out. Do you think you can keep the streak going, or is it inevitably going to fall at some point?
I don't know. I mean, I think that Kenny will probably show pace at Sebring for sure. I'm not sure how I'm going to do at Charlotte Roval. That is not a good track for me, honestly. I've had very bad luck in the official races on iRacing at that track, so you know, someone else could take that one. So I definitely have to stay on high alert. The good thing is Olton Park, that is property of Rob Hubrex. That track is kind of my #1 track. It's my test track for any new cars that I have. I've won a lot there, so that's up next on the schedule, I believe. So that one, I think, unless something goes horribly wrong, I should be looking at good chance of victory there. And then the other two, kind of up in the air, but we'll see what happens.
Well, I guess we'll have to talk to Jeremy, see about getting you a pit lane start for Olton, so we have something to talk about instead of you just running away from the field next week.
God.
But congratulations again, Rob. You have anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, as always, thanks to Point Karting and Colorado Karting Tour for putting this on. Also, shout out to Action Sim Sport this weekend. Like I mentioned, I did the 24 Hours of Daytona with them. Kenny Schmid was one of my teammates. We came home with a 7th place finish in the LMP2 class after a 16th place start, so made up 9 positions on our start. Felt great. Like I said, I've been glued into the sim rig this entire weekend, running a little low on sleep, but it was quite a weekend. So, yeah.
Fantastic, Rob. Congratulations once again, and we will see you at Olton Park, property of Rob Hubrex. Rob Hubrex, your race winner, everybody.
Thank you.
And Alex, I am just going to grab our runner-up, Brian Brutsey, for you, and take it away.
Brian Brutsey. Well, I think today is a tale of two halves for you, because you started off well, you know, even though you dropped back having that fight with fellas, which, honestly, amazing to watch. Of course, you know, that early stop, a strategical masterclass, but it all just unfolded itself towards the end. And, of course, you know, for someone like yourself, you know, are you coming away from that with a positive mindset, or are you sort of going, yeah, but I should have done this?
I'll be honest, I raced my heart out, and I think I just pushed the tires a little too hard at the beginning, and towards the end of the race, all of a sudden they just fell away, and the whole last 10 laps I was just managing my tires. I think I spun on lap 29. I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? So I was trying to do that, get my focus back. I think I did pretty well for myself. I'm happy with that second. I don't know if Rob made any mistakes. I just could not catch him. I thought I could undercut everybody, but I think some other people had the same idea.
I think you were the only one that really did as big an undercut as you did, actually. Everyone else sort of came in around the 25-minute mark. So, you know, you got yourself in some clean air and really actually made a good advantage of it. And, of course, you know, when one thing I will ask though, how was it fighting? How was it fighting that hard, especially for the first 20 odd minutes of that race?
It wasn't too bad. I got some practice laps in, and this track it's super fun. It's like a rally track in a Formula One car, just sliding everywhere, and the curves are just beating you up. But I think once you get in a flow, it's a really fun track where that flow just takes over. In the beginning, it was a little nerve-wracking, but everyone was super clean. I think somebody binned it on that like off camber hairpin way in the back straight, and I think that gave me a little bit of an advantage. But overall, I'm happy with the race. It's a second place, but can't kick myself too much.
Yeah, we look forward to the next 3 rounds of the championship. Alton Park, Charlotte Roval, and Sebring. Are those 3 tracks sort of familiar to you, or are you coming into those learning those?
Yeah, no, I love Sebring. Sebring's a great track, especially in a car like this. I think I've raced that in the Skippy like 1,000 times, so hopefully that'll translate over. And I've done the Roval and the BMW GT car. Don't think I've ever done Alton Park, but something a little practice could probably help with. Yeah,
of course. And is there anyone that you would like to thank at all before we drop you out of here?
I'd like to thank you guys. Every time I watch the playbacks, you guys do a phenomenal job with the commentating, and it's super fun to watch. So thank you.
It's been a pleasure. This is your second place finisher, Brian Bruzzi, in our amazing race here at Road Atlanta today. Tyler, I think we've got time for a few more actually. So we've got a longer ending today.
Yeah, we have a few interested parties. I am going to see if we can talk to our 3rd place finisher. Vaughn Weber, you there?
Yep.
You're a little quiet, Vaughn, but we'll keep rolling, and hopefully Marco can figure that out.
I'll see if I can talk louder.
All right. Congratulations on the podium. We were remarking that it seemed like you just kind of kept yourself calm, cool, and collected, and really, by virtue of a clean race, found yourself in a great position there.
Yeah, I was pretty much just started running consistent laps, got out of the pit quickly, and ended up with only like 3 or 4 incidents, I believe. So it was a pretty consistent race.
Yeah, absolutely. In kind of at least in the opening stages, it seemed like everyone was having trouble and taking themselves out. Did you find it kind of difficult to keep yourself out of the trouble, or were you just, kind of running your own race in your own world there?
I did have a little bit of a moment. I think it was as soon as I got past Schmid, he went defensive into turn 1, and I couldn't see the apex of the exit, so I was kind of screwed. I ended up going off track. I was super close to hitting the wall, and so that kind of dropped me back a couple of seconds, so I was able to stay out of it actually.
Yeah, very good. It was, sir. I think I do remember catching that now. There was so much going on at the start of the race that we had a little bit of trouble keeping up with it all. But are you planning to drive at Alton Park, and are you looking forward to it at all?
I'm not very sure because I'm sharing the iRacing account with my dad right now. He races at Charlotte, so I don't know. We'll see who gets to drive that time, but it'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, gotcha. I think you could probably say, "Hey, look, Dad, I got it on the podium, so maybe let me have the reins for Alton once again." But anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, Vaughn, before we let you go here?
I guess my dad, because he's right next to me doing the pit stop and telling me to get out of there in like 2 seconds. So.
Excellent, awesome. Thank you so much, and congratulations on your 3rd place finish, Vaughn Weber.
Thank you. See ya.
Last but not least, Tyler.
Yes, indeed.
I think it's time to drag in Mr. Daniel Fellows. Daniel, are you there, my good man?
Yes, I am.
All I can say to start is what could have been if not for taking tires.
Well, in all honesty, I think that was the right call. I I could go on and make a bunch of excuses about how I wasn't, I didn't have my button mapping where I wanted it yet, but I missed the pit limiter, and then in my frantic panic to try and find it, I walled
Crashed
it.
into the pit wall. Easily done.
Took a 40-second penalty. I'm
Oh.
kicking myself in the leg a little bit because of it, because I think I ended up 38 seconds behind the leader in the end. So, yeah. But I only got the car 2 days ago, and I can be really happy with. I think I showed plenty of good pace. So
I was gonna say, for 2 days of practice, it's like 2 days ago, and more effectively 2 days of practice. That is immense pace. To be on pace relatively with our dominant road course ringer Hubrex is absolutely outstanding. And of course, so this is obviously your first race, I'm assuming, in CKT. You looking forward to the next few rounds then, because they're all road courses.
yeah, I'm glad they are. I like the endurance stuff as well, because I've always seemed to shine a little bit there, just been patient enough to make it work. But I was a little on the edge of my seat because I was worried that maybe I wasn't fast enough. But I think after today, I showed that I can be up at the front, and maybe the next one.
Of course, and going back just to saying, like, about the flustering, in the panic, the blind panic. Of course, you didn't seem to have that when you were fighting with Brutzi. You seem to have a very cool, calm, and collected head, and seem to really make some really, really good overtakes. Some really good fighting. How does a driver like yourself in that sort of situation, 3 cars literally all together within like half a second of each other, just trading places like that? How easy is it just to maintain sort of like that composure in that sort of battle sort of state?
I mean, firstly, going back to that, I think I had a few of my best moves in this race. Some stuff I'm really proud of, but it's so hard in the sim, because you're not really getting to use all that energy you have, so you have all that adrenaline buildup. But I don't know. I had a pretty good head this race. I think I came into it. I just wanted to have fun, and that's what I got. So I, just deep breaths the whole time, and I think it worked out in the end. But yeah, it was really close racing the whole time. I'm super happy with how it went, disregarding that little oopsie moment that I had in the pits. But
I mean, it was a great race from you, Daniel, and I think there's a lot to take away, a lot of positives, and I think plenty of things to look forward to as we move to Alton Park. Is there anyone that you would like to thank though before we bring an end to everything?
I'd like to thank my parents, obviously, because they got me into karting, and they're the ones who got me this nice little sim rig that I've got going now. So I wouldn't be here without them. And go support my new design company, DFD Graphics. We make helmets, carts, apparel, all that stuff you need to design. Send me an email, danielcfellows@gmail.com.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. For all your graphical design apparel needs, go to DFD. Thank you, Daniel, for joining us. And of course, take care of yourself. We'll see you at Alton Park.
All right, see you then. Thank you.
Oh, Tyler, it has been an outstanding race once again in CKT.
It always is a pleasure calling these races with you, Alex, and I've told the CKT guys that as well. It's just some great shows that we always get from our perspective up here in the booth, and it seems the drivers all enjoy racing in this series, and it was another good one tonight. Obviously, Rob Hubrex, your winner once again, and some strong performances from newcomers and oldcomers alike to the league. So I think it really bodes well for what we're going to see next time out at Alton Park. Back to the sprint race format for that. I'm really looking forward to it. But that is all we have for you tonight. This has been round 4 of the Colorado Karting Tour at Road Atlanta. We will see you next time out at Alton Park, as mentioned, in a couple of weeks. But for everybody here at Apex Racing TV, I have been Tyler Newitt alongside Alex Skinner, with Marco Barbanera doing everything in production. We will see you next time.